Mustard and myself grew up in a really small town. The closest thing you would have to an arcade machine is the local bowling alley may have had like a light gun game, but that's pretty much it. It was only the home versions that allowed us to experience the different franchises, and I feel like I unofficially speak for quite a lot of people our age, how important getting those home versions as good as they were was. So that the rest of us could still experience it in different parts of the world that arcades weren't as common, especially those small towns.
Which side was I on in the home versions? There's only one side. Like, what do you know, it's just the Genesis version. There's only one version of the game. The Super Nintendo version is a travesty by comparison.
I actually thought that even though the Genesis was a little behind graphically than the Super Nintendo, I liked the grittier look of the Genesis version. It really felt kind of down and dirty the way Mortal Kombat should.
I mean, also the Genesis version had the blood code. And the real fatalities and the Dullard code and all the other cool stuff in it. I think that made up for like the music in the Genesis version being really hokey and some of that other stuff.
My friend had a Genesis. They got Mortal Kombat. His mom would come in every now and then just to look at the screen to make sure there was no blood flying. Finish him. And so what we would do is we would enter the blood code, we'd play a match or two, and then we'd hit reset, turn off the blood code, keep playing when she came in, and then she'd leave and we'd turn the blood code back on.
Nintendo screwed the pooch when they didn't allow the blood in the game, and they instead put sweat in it, which the Genesis version outsold the SNES version like 3-1 or something like that. Everybody wanted the violence, you know, they wanted the blood.
The Super Nintendo version feels like mud. Like the act of playing that game is so unlike playing the actual arcade game.
So I really wanted Mortal Kombat. Not just to fit in, but because I loved it. I wanted it so bad, but my family didn't have a ton of money. So I scraped together all the money I had, and I was able to finally afford Mortal Kombat for the Game Boy. And that game is a experience. When you play Mortal Kombat in the arcade, it's a little bit heavy and you feel the power of those hits. Mortal Kombat on the Game Boy moved like two frozen people were slowly trying to get close enough to hug. Like when you'd push the punch button, it would eventually move the fist forward a little bit at maybe 1 frame per minute. I cannot do a fatality in this game. I know for a fact they exist because the computer can do the fatalities on that pit level. Instead of having them fall off the stage onto spikes, at the end of each part of the level were just little drawn spikes in the background that you could knock them onto. And I think that was their like makeshift solution for having a stage-based fatality. Even as a kid, I knew it was not the best version, but I loved it so much. I even put in a Game Genie code that let you play as Goro. Like, I did every secret possible. I was gonna squeeze every single dollar I put into that game. And I still own it, and I'll still play it occasionally because I'm kind of a masochist, but there's something special about it. There's something that's kind of like pure about a Mortal Kombat game that's so weird and watered down and slow that it almost circles back around to being kind of creepy and mysterious.
I mean, they may not have been like arcade perfect, but to us, we didn't know any better. We didn't have anything to comparison. All we cared about was just, you know, play the game, have fun with it, you know, and enjoy what we were doing. And that was about it.
Blood splatters from the contestants' heads. When a player wins, the so-called death sequence begins. The game narrator instructs the player to finish, and I quote, finish his opponent. Blood splatters from the contestants' heads. When a player wins, the so-called death sequence begins. The game narrator instructs the player to finish, and I quote, finish his opponent.
video games were becoming more and more sophisticated, maturing.
It was around that time that we were realizing that video games aren't just for kids. The manufacturers of the home consoles still kind of thought of them that way. It's like, hey, this is a toy for kids.
We never made Mortal Kombat for 6-year-olds or anything like that. That was never the intention. 4 guys in their 20s what kind of video game are they going to make?
In our minds, we were creating the game for a certain demographic of player.
Fans of Terminator, Bloodsport, Alien, Predator, all these movies. It was a game by guys in their 20s, for guys in their 20s. And nobody mentioned anything during the arcade days.
Once the game came home on the consoles, it came into people's living rooms. That was a shocker to the moms and dads of suburbia.
Blood splatters from the contestants' heads. When a player wins, the so-called death sequence begins. The game narrator instructs the player to finish, and I quote, finish his opponent.
My parents were very worried about the violence in Mortal Kombat because eventually they saw the news stories. They saw the news stories that were like, you could rip out someone's spine or you could light them on fire. Like, I had a friend who was not allowed to go to another friend's house because he had played Mortal Kombat with him.
And we also really didn't see a lot of animated blood in video games back then. It seems so commonplace today.
What is the difference in between this and violent movies? Why is it different?
No one's looking at movies in the same way as they're looking at video games.
Rock music before it, and comics and heavy metal.
I grew up at a time Elvis Presley's body was blacked out from the waist down because he was gyrating, and God only knows what that's going to do to today's youth.
I do think that there was a number of kind of politicians and other people who were looking for a scapegoat. Kind of this was it. It came along at the right time.
Kato wins. Flawless victory.
It was just like, video games are bad, and these are the ones doing it. I think the thing that made me most angry about it was it just felt like no one involved in any of this had ever actually played a video game or seen this stuff outside of very carefully selected footage.
It was like fairly kind of innocuous, and it was like kind of cartoon violence.
And yeah, it seems violent, but ultimately it's really just funny.
Yeah, it's like Evil Dead, isn't it?
The very idea that like Mortal Kombat was somehow going to destroy society or the fabric of our youth or anything was always ridiculous.
These home games had no system of ratings, right? Like, a CD would say explicit lyrics or something. A movie would say rated R for violence or, whatever. And I think, to me, that was the fundamental issue. Somebody noticed and somebody objected to it, and we certainly didn't disagree with it.
And so I think that the reaction from Congress and everything at the time almost, to me, felt appropriate.
Yeah, I'd say having the conversation about violence in video games and ratings in video games ultimately is something that was going to happen sooner or later. Is the industry going to be able to self-regulate, or is the government going to have to come in and do a bunch of really dumb things?
I think that the rating system helps people make more informed decisions about what they're buying, and that included Mortal Kombat. If you're a parent who bought their kids games, they probably shouldn't have been playing Mortal Kombat unless you could supervise them. It was the next step in the maturity of the industry, and the rating system was kind of emblematic of that. It was a way to say, hey, here's this type of game, here's the type of content, make your own choice.
The rating system and stuff that came from it felt like the right choice, to make.
I think that if video games were like a squalling infant that was just learning how to crawl, Mortal Kombat got them toddling on their feet.